At first, it was just every once in a while, but the last 3 months that he was alive, it had gotten to be 3-4 times a week.
You're taking your lunch break, you see them pass by or pull into the place you're at and stop and look at their watch and get out and check, see if your vehicle's locked and look in it, knowing all the time that you're watching them. And then they move on. And that's, to me, that's harassment.
I believe they were following him to shake Steve up. Hopefully they would find him doing something they could dismiss him for, that they could fire him for. But they can never do that. And I think that's why they followed him for so long.
Steve would be the kind of, he would have been the kind of guy that would be a sacrificial lamb to make things right for everybody else. He was just that good-hearted.
Steve Spencer was my secretary when I was president. The thing that I was shocked about is why Steve didn't come to somebody for help, because everybody used to go to Steve for help.
Being real honest with you, if it wasn't for Steve, a lot of days, I probably could have done something wrong to people.
Even the president of the union would come to him for advice because they knew, well, everyone knew, the postal management knew, the union members, old and new, knew that he had so much knowledge. And I think that's where part of the problem came in. They were truly afraid of him. He was the one that they were determined to see leave the Postal Service.
I wasn't surprised at what happened last week, because I've seen it coming. There's going to be a lot more coming too if it don't stop.
You could cut the stress level walking into the building.
I think people feel like their jobs are on the line. I think they feel like that if they say something that they're going to be after them. They're going to find things to go after them for. They're going to find things to try to get them out.
When we were voicing our opinions about what this guy is saying and doing, the POOM interviewed 6 people. All 6 people said, I feel my blood pressure coming up when I see this manager. The hair on my arm stands up. I get nervous. I get tense. I said, what's your definition of going postal? And when I said that to Majid, he threw himself back into the computer. The girl that was taking notes drops her pen. And he says, we don't like to talk about going postal. I said, okay, well then let's change the word. You tell me what the word is that we'd use instead of going postal. He says, no, you know, I don't want to talk about going postal. They don't want to talk about that.
We need an ambulance.
Where are you at?
On August 18th, 1983, Perry Smith carried a 12-gauge shotgun to the post office where he worked for 25 years. He chased the postmaster to a nearby store and killed him, shooting 2 former co-workers in the process. Less than 4 months later, it happened again in Alabama, then Georgia, and New York City. For more than 2 decades it kept happening. Postal employees came to work aiming for their bosses, leaving a wake of collateral damage as dozens of postal workers were killed or injured.
Oh my God, Judy up and shot. Hurry up, I'm going to die.
He had a 9mm pistol and he started shooting them forward.
In Montclair, New Jersey, there were 2 postal employees killed, 2 people from the general public, and 1 maimed for life. I went and sat outside that office that night and had tears in my eyes because I wondered if I should go back to work because of the fact that this could happen to me. But it could happen to anybody in any walk of life, and I had too much to give up to leave the Postal Service.
Every incident of post office violence back then, I was involved in. I was called in.
Dr. Mike Mantell, an expert in dealing with mass trauma, arrived today.
I remember talking about how quickly they cleaned up the blood and the bullet holes, and how some of the post office workers said, there's still some bullet holes in the wall, and it turns our stomach, and it twists our minds, and it affects us deeply. And it was, just get back to work. Don't worry about it. Get over it. Don't just take a file cabinet and move it over to cover a bullet hole. Clean it up.
I've seen a lot of people that are waiting to explode in there.
To lay this at labor management relations, to lay it at stress, I just don't think is legitimate.
This time it's Royal Oak, Michigan. Another postal worker gone berserk on a shooting rampage targeting his supervisors.
He came in at about 8 o'clock and had his gun under his coat. He shot Chris Carlisle in the head 5 times, came out, shot 2 other supervisors, and went upstairs, and I guess he shot some people who were injury comp, and somebody jumped out of a window.
Incredibly, everyone at Royal Oak knew it was coming, and most knew the gunman by name.
Tom McIlvain was their main target.
They went after the guy for everything. They went after him because his shorts weren't the right length, that he went to the bathroom too many times. The day that he was actually fired and it stuck, 3 management people got in a car and followed him out to his route. They were following like within inches of his bumper. And that then he slowed down to, 10 or 15 miles an hour. They said that he tried to hit them with, slam on the brakes and make them hit him. What it came down to was that he would not submit to them. And so when I came to San Francisco, I was just shocked that the manager there was the same kind of manager that I had seen in Royal Oak. Barking at everybody, screaming at them. Scream from across the room for you to come to her desk so she could yell at you in front of everybody in the place. It's frightening to me to be in there. And the times that I went to the postmaster in San Francisco and personally asked, what can we do? Because the morale is so bad that I can see how another Royal Oak will happen here. And the response always was to me, well, geez, Audrey, you seem to have some kind of personal problems. Have you thought about seeing a psychiatrist?
A postal supervisor appears to have been killed by a co-worker who later turned the gun on himself. Postal employees were told not to comment.
Specifics to discipline or any of that information we're not going to release. Both of these employees were very well liked.
They didn't have any idea. No one could possibly know why he did it. How can that be that you just have the same situation so many times over and over? How can that possibly be? It has to be the mentality of the post office.
This is a philosophy that's being promoted by the post office in general. Harass